The assembly hall of the Galactic Cooperation Academy stretched so far that Hyunwoo could barely see the ceiling. Thousands of seats filled with beings from across known space. Some had scales, some had feathers, and some looked like they were made of living crystal. Hyunwoo sat in the human section with his friend Jia beside him. They were part of the first large group of humans to attend the academy. "Do you think the exam will be as hard as they say?" Jia whispered to him. Hyunwoo shrugged. "We survived training in the mountains back home. How different can it be?" Jia gave him a look that said she thought he was being too confident. She was probably right. She usually was. At the front of the hall, Instructor Velthar stepped onto the platform. He was from a species that looked like a tall lizard walking on two legs. His scales were dark green and his eyes were sharp and yellow. He was known as the toughest instructor in the academy. "Attention, candidates," Velthar's voice boomed through the hall. "In 3 days you will face the survival examination. This test has been used for 200 years to prepare members of the Peacekeeping Corps. It is not easy. Some of you will fail. Some of you may be injured." The hall became very quiet. Hyunwoo noticed that many of the alien students were making nervous gestures. Some were clicking their mandibles. Others were ruffling their feathers. "The examination is simple," Velthar continued. "You will be placed in a simulation of a death world environment. In this environment, there will be a predator. An apex predator from one of the most dangerous planets we have cataloged. Your task is to survive for 72 hours. A hologram appeared above the platform. It showed a massive creature with 8 limbs, covered in black armor-like skin. Its mouth had 3 rows of teeth. Its eyes glowed red in the darkness. "This is the Velcrax," Velthar said. "It is tireless. It is intelligent. It can track you by heat, by smell, by the smallest sound. In nature, it has no natural predators. In previous examinations, it has a 15% injury rate among candidates." Murmurs spread through the hall. 15% meant that roughly 1 in 7 students would be hurt badly enough to need medical evacuation. Hyunwoo watched the hologram carefully. He studied how the creature moved, how it tilted its head when listening. "You may work in groups," Velthar said. "Most successful candidates form teams of 10 to 15 members. You will combine your strengths, build defenses, and hide from the predator until the time expires. This is the recommended strategy." More holograms appeared, showing previous successful groups. They had built elaborate hiding spots in trees, underground bunkers, and camouflage shelters. Some had used technology to mask their heat signatures. Others had created decoy trails to confuse the predator. Hyunwoo raised his hand. The entire hall seemed to turn and look at him. Humans were still new here. Most of the other species found them strange. Humans had forward-facing eyes like predators. They showed their teeth when they were happy. They ate meat without hesitation. These things made many aliens uncomfortable. "Yes, Candidate Hyunwoo," Velthar said. Hyunwoo stood up. "Sir, I have a question about the predator." "Proceed." "When we complete the exam, do you need the Velcrax still breathing? Or would a dead one work for evaluation purposes?" The hall went completely silent. Jia closed her eyes and put her hand over her face. Around them, alien students stared with wide eyes or whatever they used for eyes. Velthar's scales seemed to change color slightly. "Candidate, perhaps your translation device is malfunctioning. The goal is to survive and avoid the predator, not to engage it." "I understand that, sir," Hyunwoo said calmly. "But I want to know the rules. If the threat is eliminated, does that count as surviving?" An insectoid student named Rax, who was sitting near the front, clicked his mandibles rapidly. "Is the human joking? That creature is 3 times his size and designed to kill." Hyunwoo looked at Rax. "On Earth, humans regularly dealt with predators larger than us. We survived by being smarter, not bigger." Velthar held up a clawed hand for silence. "Candidate Hyunwoo, the simulation is designed to test your survival skills, not your combat abilities. The Velcrax is nearly impossible to kill with the resources provided. Every species that has attempted to fight it directly has failed. I strongly recommend you focus on evasion." "Understood, sir," Hyunwoo said and sat down. "But you didn't answer my question." "Is it allowed?" Velthar was quiet for a moment. "There is no rule against it. However, in 300 examinations, no candidate has ever killed their assigned predator. The possibility was considered so unlikely that we never needed to make a specific rule." "Thank you, sir," Hyunwoo said. "That's all I needed to know." As the briefing continued, Jia leaned over to whisper, "Are you insane? You're going to try to fight that thing?" "Maybe," Hyunwoo whispered back. My grandfather taught me to hunt in the mountains. He always said that the best way to stop being prey is to understand the predator. Your grandfather hunted deer and wild boar, Jia hissed. Not alien super predators from death worlds. The principle is the same, Hyunwoo said. Every predator has patterns. They all have weaknesses. You just have to watch and learn. You're going to get yourself killed. Maybe, Hyunwoo admitted. But I'd rather die trying than spend 3 days hiding and being terrified. After the briefing ended, students began filing out of the hall. Hyunwoo noticed that the other species were keeping their distance from the human section. He had seen this before. Many aliens were afraid of humans, though they tried to be polite about it. An avian student named Mora approached them. Her feathers were bright blue and she moved with quick, nervous energy. Excuse me, she said to Jia. I wanted to ask if you would like to join our survival group. We have strong members from 6 different species. We could benefit from human problem-solving abilities. I'd be happy to, Jia said, smiling. Mora glanced at Hyunwoo, then back to Jia. Just you, if that's acceptable. Some of our members are uncomfortable with your friend's attitude toward the predator. That's fine, Hyunwoo said before Jia could respond. I work better alone anyway. After Mora left, Jia punched Hyunwoo's arm. You didn't have to scare everyone like that. Now they think you're crazy. Better they think I'm crazy than underestimate what humans can do, Hyunwoo said. Besides, I meant what I said. I do work better alone. Promise me you'll be careful, Jia said. Don't do anything stupid just to prove a point. I promise I'll be as careful as I need to be, Hyunwoo said. And I'm not trying to prove a point. I'm just being practical. If something is hunting you, you have 2 choices. Hide and hope it doesn't find you, or make sure it can't hunt you anymore. And you choose option 2. I choose to understand the situation first, Hyunwoo corrected. Then I'll decide. But I'm not going to spend 3 days cowering in fear. That's not how humans survived on Earth, Jia sighed. Just remember that your grandfather never had to fight anything with acid blood and thermal vision. True, Hyunwoo said with a slight smile. But he also taught me that the biggest advantage any hunter has is knowing the terrain better than their prey. In this exam, I'll make sure I'm the hunter who knows the terrain, not the Velcrax. They walked back to their quarters together. Around them, other students were already forming groups and planning their strategies. Everyone was talking about hiding spots, defensive positions, and ways to mask their presence. Only Hyunwoo was thinking about something different. He was thinking about how predators move, how they hunt, and how they die. The simulation chamber was massive. When Hyunwoo stepped through the portal, he felt the heat hit him immediately. The air was thick and humid, like being in a jungle during summer. Except this wasn't Earth. The plants around him were strange colors, deep purples and bright oranges. Some of them moved even though there was no wind. His communication device beeped. Candidate Hyunwoo, your examination begins now. You have 72 hours. Please confirm that your emergency beacon is functioning. Hyunwoo pressed the small device on his wrist. A green light blinked. Confirmed. Good luck, candidate. Then he was alone. The first thing Hyunwoo did was find a tree with a thick trunk. He climbed it quickly, using branches like a ladder. His grandfather had taught him to always get high ground first. From up high, you could see danger coming. You could understand the land. From the top of the tree, Hyunwoo looked around carefully. He could see a small stream about 200 meters to his left. There was a rocky area to his right. Behind him was more dense jungle. He pulled out the small notebook and pencil he had brought. The rules said no advanced technology, but paper and pencil were allowed. He started drawing a map. He marked the tree he was in, the stream, the rocks, and the direction the sun was moving. Good hunters always knew the terrain. Somewhere far away, he heard a roar. Deep and powerful. That would be the Velcrax. Hyunwoo listened carefully. The sound came from the north. That meant the creature was probably making a patrol of its territory. Most predators did that. They walked the same paths over and over, marking their space. Hyunwoo stayed in the tree for 2 more hours. He watched and listened. He saw small animals moving through the brush. He saw which plants the animals avoided. Those plants were probably poisonous or dangerous. He saw which paths through the jungle were used most often. Predators like to use paths too. It saved energy. When he finally climbed down, he had a plan. First, he needed tools. The simulation rules said they couldn't bring weapons, but they could make them. Hyunwoo found rocks by the stream. He picked them up and tested their weight. He chose 3 good ones. hard stones that could be sharpened. He sat down and began striking one rock against another. His grandfather had shown him this when he was young. You hit the rock at the right angle, and pieces would flake off. Do it enough times and you had a sharp edge. It took an hour, but he made 2 good cutting tools and 1 sharp point that could be a spear tip. Next, he needed rope or cord. He found a plant with long, strong fibers. He tested one by pulling it hard. It didn't break. Good. He gathered many of these plants and began twisting the fibers together. This was slow work, but important. With rope, he could make traps. He could make snares. He could bind a spear point to a stick. While he worked, he kept listening. The Velcrax roared again. Closer this time. Hyunwoo stopped working and stayed very still. He controlled his breathing like his grandfather taught him. Slow and quiet. Predators could hear fast breathing. After 10 minutes, he heard heavy footsteps moving through the jungle. They were going away from him. The creature was moving in a pattern. Hyunwoo added this to his mental map. The predator was circling the area, probably looking for candidates. But it hadn't found him yet. That was good. That meant he had time. By the end of the first day, Hyunwoo had made a spear, 2 sharp knives, and 20 meters of cord. He had also found the Velcrax's tracks near the stream. The footprints were huge, each one as long as his forearm, but they told him important things. The creature was heavy, so it avoided soft ground. It drank from the stream, which meant it needed water regularly. And from the spacing of the tracks, he could tell it had a slight limp on its rear left limb. An old injury, maybe. Or maybe it had hurt itself in a previous examination. Either way, it was information. Hyunwoo didn't sleep much that night. He rested in a tree but kept his eyes open. He watched and learned. He saw the Velcrax pass by twice. Each time it stopped and smelled the air. It was hunting by scent, but Hyunwoo had rolled in the mud near the stream. The mud masked his human smell. Another trick his grandfather had taught him for hunting deer. In the monitoring room outside the simulation, Instructor Velthar watched Hyunwoo's camera feed with confusion. Most candidates were hiding, building shelters or huddling in groups. But this human was making weapons. He was tracking the predator instead of running from it. Is he insane? Asked another instructor, a floating jellyfish-like being named Kel. I'm not sure, Velthar said. Humans are difficult to understand. Their psychology is very different from ours. He's going to be killed, Kel said with certainty. The Velcrax will find him by morning. But morning came and Hyunwoo was still alive. More than that, he had followed the Velcrax to its den. He found the cave where the creature slept during the hottest part of the day. He watched from a distance, hidden behind rocks, as the Velcrax entered the cave. Now he knew where it lived. He knew its patrol pattern. He knew it had an injury. He knew it needed water every few hours. This was good information. On the other side of the simulation, Jia was having a very different experience. Her group had built a shelter in a large tree. It was clever work. They had used leaves and branches to create a platform that was almost invisible from below. They had collected water from rain and stored it in containers made from large plant leaves. They had even posted guards to watch for the predator. Your species has interesting ideas about survival, said Mora, the avian student. You suggested we cover our shelter with these sticky plants. Why? The plants smell very strong, Jia explained. The smell will cover our scent. The predator hunts by smell, right? So we hide our smell. Clever, Mora clicked her beak in approval. On my world, we simply fly away from danger. We never thought to hide our scent. Another member of the group, a small furry creature named Kella, was shaking with fear. Did you hear that roar? It's getting closer. We should call for extraction. I want to leave. We've only been here 1 day, Jia said gently. We have 2 more days. We can do this. Easy for you to say, Kella squeaked. Your species hunted predators. Mine was hunted by them. My instincts tell me to run. Then trust our group instead of your instincts, Jia said. We're safe here. The predator can't reach us. Even if it finds us, we have the height advantage. What would your friend do? Asked Rax, the insectoid. He had joined Jia's group for safety. The crazy human who asked about killing the predator. What would he do in this situation? Jia smiled a little. Hyunwoo. He'd probably be tracking it right now, learning its habits. Looking for weaknesses. That's insane, Rax said. The predator is hunting us. We don't hunt it. Maybe that's why humans survived, Jia said quietly. We learned to hunt everything. even the things that wanted to hunt us. The group fell silent, thinking about that. Back in his zone, Hyunwoo was setting his first trap. He had found a natural choke point on one of the paths the Velcrax used. The path went between two large rocks. The creature had to squeeze through this space. It was perfect. He tied his cord between the rocks at ankle height. Then he attached heavy stones to a bent tree branch above the path. When something tripped the cord, the branch would snap forward and the stones would swing down like a hammer. It was a simple trap, but his grandfather always said simple traps were the most reliable. He set 2 more traps on other paths. Then he made a spear and waited. When the Velcrax came through on its next patrol, Hyunwoo was ready. He made a small noise, a whistle like a bird call. The creature's head snapped toward the sound. It moved toward Hyunwoo's hiding spot. Hyunwoo ran, not in panic, but with purpose. He ran toward the path with the trap. Behind him, he could hear the Velcrax chasing. Its footsteps were heavy and fast, but Hyunwoo was faster over short distances. He was counting on that. He jumped over the cord. Behind him, the Velcrax charged through. The trap triggered. The branch whipped forward. Stones crashed into the creature's head and shoulder. The Velcrax roared in pain and anger. It stumbled, confused. Hyunwoo didn't stay to watch. He kept running. He had learned what he needed to learn. The traps worked. The creature could be hurt. And most important, it could be fooled. In the monitoring room, every instructor was now watching Hyunwoo's feed. What they saw went against everything they knew about survival strategy. This human wasn't hiding. He was fighting. And somehow he was winning. The second day began with screams from another zone. Somewhere in the simulation, a group of candidates had been found by their Velcrax. The emergency extraction team pulled them out. 3 injured, 1 seriously. The examination was living up to its reputation. Hyunwoo heard the distant alarms but stayed focused on his work. He had spent the night building a better trap. This one was different from the simple stone drop. This one was designed to kill. He had dug a pit near the stream right where the Velcrax came to drink. The pit was 2 meters deep. At the bottom, he had planted sharp wooden stakes carved and hardened in fire. He covered the pit with branches and leaves, making it look like solid ground. Then he covered the disguise with mud from the stream to hide any human scent. It had taken him 8 hours of work. His hands were blistered and sore. But it was ready. Now he just needed to make the Velcrax use this path. Hyunwoo took some of the meat he had caught from a small animal. He rubbed it on trees and rocks, creating a scent trail that led toward his trap. Predators followed food smells. It was basic biology. Then he climbed a tree and waited. The Velcrax came at noon when the heat was strongest. Hyunwoo could see it clearly now. 8 limbs moving with terrible grace, black armored skin that looked nearly impossible to cut, red eyes that scanned the jungle with intelligence. This was not just an animal. It was a thinking hunter. The creature smelled the meat trail. Its head turned, following the scent. It moved along the path Hyunwoo had created. Closer to the stream. Closer to the trap. Hyunwoo held his breath. The Velcrax reached the covered pit. For a moment it paused. Its head tilted as if sensing something wrong. Hyunwoo's heart pounded. Had it detected the trap? Then the creature took another step forward. The branches broke. The Velcrax fell into the pit with a roar that shook the trees. Hyunwoo heard the sound of wooden stakes hitting armored flesh. The creature screamed. A sound of pain and rage mixed together. Hyunwoo dropped from the tree. He grabbed his spear and moved carefully to the edge of the pit. He looked down. The Velcrax was impaled on 3 stakes. Dark blood, almost black, pooled at the bottom of the pit. But the creature was not dead. It thrashed and roared, trying to climb out. Its claws scraped at the dirt walls. For a moment, Hyunwoo felt something unexpected. Respect. This creature was fighting to survive just like he was. It was strong and brave. In another situation, he might have admired it. But this was a test. And there could only be one survivor. Hyunwoo used his spear like his grandfather had taught him. Quick strikes to vital areas. The throat. Behind the skull. Places where even armor was thin. The Velcrax fought back, its claws nearly catching him twice. Hyunwoo fell backwards, rolling away from a strike that would have torn him in half. His arm hit a rock. Pain shot through his shoulder. He felt something warm running down his skin. Blood. The creature's claws had grazed him after all. But Hyunwoo had fought through pain before. In training. In survival exercises back on Earth, pain was just information. It told you that you were still alive and needed to keep fighting. He struck again. And again. The Velcrax's movements became slower, weaker. Finally, after what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, the creature stopped moving. Hyunwoo sat on the ground, breathing hard. His arm hurt badly. He looked at the wound. Long scratches, deep but not fatal. He would need to clean them. He used water from the stream and cloth torn from his uniform. He pressed the cloth against the cuts until the bleeding stopped. Then he used plant fibers to wrap the wound. His grandfather had taught him field medicine too. When you hunted far from home, you had to know how to treat injuries. In the monitoring room, chaos had erupted. He killed it, Kel said in disbelief. The human actually killed the Velcrax. Impossible, said another instructor. That shouldn't be possible with primitive tools. Velthar said nothing. He watched the screen with a mix of emotions he couldn't quite identify. Fear, yes, but also something else. Respect, maybe, or concern about what this meant. Should we extract him? Kel asked. He's injured. The injury is not life-threatening, Velthar said. And look at him. On the screen, Hyunwoo was not calling for extraction. Instead, he was examining the Velcrax's body. He was studying its armor, testing where the plates were weakest. He was removing claws and teeth. He was cutting pieces of hide. What is he doing? Kel asked in horror. He's making better tools, Velthar said quietly, from the predator itself. Over the next hours, Hyunwoo worked efficiently. He used the sharp stone tools to cut pieces of the Velcrax's hide. The hide was tough and flexible like leather but stronger. He made it into better armor for himself, wrapping it around his chest and shoulders. The creature's claws became new knife points sharper than any stone. Its teeth became tools for cutting and scraping. He also did something that made the monitoring instructors look away. He cut meat from the creature and cooked it over a fire. He ate it calmly, methodically, as if it was the most normal thing in the world. That's barbaric, one instructor whispered. That's survival, Velthar corrected. On death worlds, you use every resource. The human knows this instinctively. Jia was having her own challenges. Her group had successfully defended against a probe attack from their Velcrax. The creature had circled their tree shelter, testing for weaknesses. But the group had worked together. They made noise to confuse it. They threw rocks to drive it away. They used the tactics Jia had taught them. It's coming back, Kella said, her voice shaking. Let it come, Jia said with confidence she didn't completely feel. We know what to do now. We're not helpless, Rax clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. Your species has a different mindset than ours. You see the predator as a problem to solve, not a force of nature to hide from. Everything is a problem to solve, Jia said. That's how we survived on Earth. We couldn't fly away like Mora's people. We couldn't burrow underground like Kella's species. We couldn't have strong armor like Rax's kind. So we learned to think. We learned to adapt. We learned to fight when we had to. Is that why your friend is hunting the predator instead of hiding? Mora asked. Jia pulled up her communication device. She had received an update on all candidates' status. When she saw Hyunwoo's status, she smiled. Threat eliminated, she read aloud. Continuing examination. The group stared at her. He killed it? Rax said. That's impossible. For most species, yes, Jia said. But humans learned a long time ago that size doesn't matter as much as strategy. We killed animals much larger than us on Earth. Elephants, bears, whales. We did it by being smarter and more patient. Your species is terrifying, Kella squeaked. Maybe, Jia admitted, but we're also on your side now. And that makes you safer, not less safe. Back in his zone, Hyunwoo made his regular report to the monitoring system. Candidate Hyunwoo reporting. Primary threat eliminated. Minor injuries sustained and treated. Requesting permission to continue the examination. There was a long pause before Velthar's voice came through. Candidate, you have completed the survival objective. You can call for extraction now with full marks. I understand, sir, Hyunwoo said, but I still have time remaining. I'd like to use it to explore the simulation environment more thoroughly. Gather more data. Learn more about the terrain and ecosystem. Another pause. Very well. But if your injuries worsen, you will call for immediate extraction. That's an order. Yes, sir. What Hyunwoo didn't say was that he had noticed something. In the distance, he could hear roars from other zones. Other Velcrax hunting other candidates. Some of those candidates might be in trouble. And if the zones were connected, which he suspected they were, he might be able to help. His grandfather had taught him one more important lesson. A good hunter protects the pack. And right now, all the human candidates were his pack. If any of them needed help, he would be ready. He gathered his new weapons, adjusted his armor made from Velcrax's hide, and started moving toward the distant sounds of the hunt. The human wasn't done yet. The third day began with an alarm that Hyunwoo had never heard before. It was different from the emergency extraction signal. This was something else. His communication device blinked with a new message. Warning: secondary protocol activated. Multiple threats detected in Zone 7. Candidate Hyunwoo, you are advised to maintain defensive position. Hyunwoo smiled grimly. He had suspected this would happen. In most examinations, when a candidate eliminated the primary threat, the system adapted. It made things harder. The academy wanted to test limits after all. He checked his equipment. His spear was solid. His knives made from Velcrax's claws were sharp. His armor was holding together well. He was as ready as he could be. Then he heard them. Not one roar, but three, smaller than the original Velcrax, but faster. Pack hunters. The system had spawned a group of younger predators to replace the one he killed. In the monitoring room, an emergency meeting was happening. Council member Thress had arrived, a tall being with silver skin who represented the Academy's oversight committee. This is unprecedented, Thress said. A human candidate has forced the activation of the extreme scenario protocol. What do we do? We extract him immediately, suggested Kel. 3 Velcrax against 1 injured human is certain death. The protocol allows for candidates to continue if they choose, Velthar said carefully. And candidate Hyunwoo has not called for extraction. Then he's suicidal, another instructor said. Velthar pulled up Hyunwoo's file on the screen. His psychological evaluations show no signs of death wish or reckless behavior. In fact, his profile indicates exceptional patience and strategic thinking. If he believes he can survive, we should trust his judgment. Or he's too proud to admit when he's beaten, Thress said coldly. They watched the screens. Hyunwoo was not running or hiding. He was moving deliberately through the jungle, setting more traps. He was studying the new threat patterns. He was adapting. The first pack member found him near a small clearing. It was smaller than the adult Velcrax, but faster and more aggressive. It charged immediately, no stalking or testing. Just pure attack. Hyunwoo had expected this. Young predators were always more reckless. They hadn't learned caution yet. He rolled to the side as the creature lunged. Its claws hit the tree behind him, tearing bark away. Hyunwoo came up with his spear and struck at the creature's rear leg. The spear point, made from the adult's claw, pierced through the younger Velcrax's armor easily. The creature screamed and spun around. Hyunwoo was already moving, using the trees as cover. The young Velcrax charged again. This time, Hyunwoo led it toward one of his prepared traps. A net made from plant fiber and weighted with rocks dropped from the trees. The Velcrax became tangled, thrashing wildly. Hyunwoo moved in quickly. His grandfather's words echoed in his mind. A trapped animal is dangerous. Be fast, be certain. He was both. 2 quick strikes to vital points, and the first pack member stopped moving. But there was no time to rest. The other 2 had heard the fight. They were coming. Hyunwoo grabbed his weapons and ran, not in panic, but according to a plan. He had spent the night preparing the entire zone. Every path had a trap. Every clearing was a potential battlefield. He just needed to get the predators to follow him. The second Velcrax caught up to him near the stream. This one was smarter. It didn't charge blindly. It circled, testing for weakness. Hyunwoo kept his spear ready, turning to keep the creature in front of him. Then the third one arrived from the side. Hyunwoo cursed. Being flanked was bad, very bad. On Earth, wolves used this tactic. Once you were surrounded, your chances dropped dramatically. He made a decision. He threw his spear at the closer creature, aiming for its eyes. The spear hit not perfectly, but enough to make the Velcrax flinch back. In that moment of confusion, Hyunwoo ran. Behind him, both creatures gave chase. He could hear their breathing, heavy and eager. They thought they had him. Hyunwoo had prepared for this too. He ran toward the rocky area where he had set his largest trap, a deadfall made from carefully balanced boulders. He had spent hours positioning them, making sure they would fall at the right moment. He sprinted between 2 large stones. The Velcrax followed. Hyunwoo grabbed the trigger rope and pulled. The rocks fell. One Velcrax was crushed instantly. The other was caught partially, its back legs trapped under heavy stone. It roared and struggled but couldn't move. Hyunwoo leaned against a tree, breathing hard. His injured arm was screaming in pain. The bandages had come loose during the fight. Blood was running down his arm again. His ribs hurt from where he had rolled over rocks. He was pretty sure at least one of his fingers was broken, but he was alive. And he had reduced the threat. He approached the trapped Velcrax carefully. It snapped at him with its jaws still fighting. Hyunwoo felt that same respect again. This creature refused to give up. It was brave in its own way. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, "but this is survival. Nothing personal." He ended it quickly. Then he sat down hard, suddenly very tired. The adrenaline was wearing off. The pain was getting worse. His communication device beeped. "Candidate Hyunwoo, your vital signs indicate significant distress. Do you require extraction?" Hyunwoo looked at his injuries. The arm wound had reopened. His finger was definitely broken. He probably had bruised ribs and maybe a mild concussion from hitting his head during one of the rolls. But the exam wasn't over. He still had 12 hours remaining. "Negative," he said. "I can continue. Candidate, this is Instructor Velthar. You have exceeded all expectations. No one would think less of you for calling extraction now. You have proven your point." "I'm not trying to prove a point, sir," Hyunwoo said. "I'm just doing what needs to be done. Besides, I hear other fights happening in nearby zones. If the barriers between zones come down for any reason, I want to be ready to help other candidates." There was a long silence. Then Velthar said, "The barriers are designed to remain solid, but I appreciate your concern for fellow candidates. Very well, continue the examination. But I'm watching your vitals closely. If they get worse, I'm pulling you out whether you agree or not." "Understood, sir." In Jia's zone, her group was celebrating a small victory. They had successfully hidden from their Velcrax for the entire examination period. In just a few more hours, they would pass. "We did it," Mora chirped happily. "We actually survived." "Thanks to Jia's strategies," Rax said. "Your species' approach to problem-solving saved us." Jia smiled, but she was distracted. She kept checking her communication device for updates on Hyunwoo. She had seen the emergency protocol alert. She knew what it meant. "Your friend faced 3 predators," Kella said softly. Is he alive?" Jia checked again. The status still read, "Active. Continuing examination." "He's alive," she said with relief. "And knowing him, he's probably planning his next move." "How can your species be so calm about danger?" Mora asked. "Don't you feel fear?" "Of course we do," Jia said. "Fear is what keeps us alive. But we learned not to let fear control us. We learned to use it. Fear gives you energy. It makes you think faster. It sharpens your senses. The trick is to master it, not let it master you." "I wish I could be that brave," Kella said. "You are brave," Jia told her. "You stayed here for 3 days even though every instinct told you to run. That takes courage. Maybe more courage than what humans do because we're used to fighting. You're not. But you did it anyway." Kella seemed to sit a little taller after hearing that. Back in his zone, Hyunwoo was treating his injuries again. He used fresh plant fibers to rebandage his arm. He made a splint for his broken finger using small sticks. It wasn't perfect, but it would do. Then he did something that made the monitoring instructors shake their heads in amazement. He started cooking meat from one of the young Velcrax. He ate methodically, knowing he needed the energy. He drank water from the stream. He rested but kept alert. "He's treating this like a camping trip," Kel said in disbelief. "He's treating it like survival," Velthar corrected. "This is what his species does. They adapt. They overcome. They endure." Councilmember Thress watched silently. Finally she spoke. "This changes things. If one human can do this, what could a team of humans accomplish? What does this mean for the Academy? For the Peacekeeping Corps? It means we need to rethink our assumptions," Velthar said. "We designed this exam for prey species who became sentient. Species who learn to cooperate and hide. But humans are different. They were prey once, yes, but they became predators, and they remember being both. Are they dangerous?" Thress asked. Velthar thought carefully before answering. "Dangerous? Yes, but dangerous to whom? The human didn't hunt other candidates. He didn't attack anyone from the Academy. He fought the threat that was designed to hurt him. He used violence precisely and only when necessary. That's not a monster. That's a protector. The exam had a few more hours to go, but everyone watching knew that something important had happened. The galaxy had learned something new about humans, and it would change everything. When the examination time expired, all candidates were extracted from the simulation simultaneously. Hyunwoo found himself back in the processing room, surrounded by medical staff. They looked at his injuries with a mix of professional concern and personal horror. "You continued the examination with these injuries?" a doctor asked while scanning his arm. "They weren't life-threatening," Hyunwoo said simply. "I've had worse." The doctor, a being that looked like a floating collection of tentacles, made a sound that might have been a sigh. "Your species has a very different definition of life-threatening than most of us." In the gathering hall, successful candidates were celebrating with their groups. Jia found Hyunwoo sitting alone, his arm in a proper medical wrap, now his finger in a cast. "You idiot," she said, but she was smiling. "You really fought 3 of those things?" "Didn't have much choice," Hyunwoo said. "They weren't going to wait politely for me to hide." "The entire academy is talking about it," Jia said. "Half of them think you're insane. The other half think you're the scariest thing in the galaxy. What do you think?" "I think you're my friend who did what he thought was necessary," Jia said. "Same as always." Over the next few days, the academy was filled with tension. The Galactic Council had called an emergency meeting about the human situation. Rumors spread quickly. Some species wanted humans removed from the academy. Others wanted restrictions placed on human candidates. Everyone had an opinion. Hyunwoo was called to give testimony before the council. The chamber was huge and intimidating, filled with representatives from dozens of worlds. But he had faced 3 Velcracks. A room full of politicians didn't seem so scary anymore. Council member Thress spoke first. "Candidate Hyunwoo, your actions during the examination have created significant concern. Some members feel that your species is too dangerous to serve in peacekeeping forces. What do you say to this?" Hyunwoo stood straight despite his injuries. "With respect, council member, I think the question should be different. Not whether we're dangerous, but whether we're dangerous to the right things." "Explain," Thress said. "Every species here has strengths," Hyunwoo said. "Some can fly, some can burrow, some can survive without water for weeks. Humans have our own strengths. We adapted. We survived. We learned to fight when we had no other choice, but we also learned when to stop fighting." "You killed 4 predators in 3 days," another council member said. "You call that knowing when to stop?" "Those predators were trying to kill me and potentially other candidates," Hyunwoo said calmly. "I stopped them, but I didn't hunt them for fun. I didn't torture them. I didn't kill more than necessary. Once the threat was eliminated, I stopped." "That's control. That's discipline." Instructor Velthar stepped forward. "If I may address the council, I have studied the recordings carefully. Candidate Hyunwoo's actions, while aggressive by our standards, were precisely measured. He used the minimum force necessary to survive. He showed respect for his opponents, and most importantly, he showed protective instinct toward other candidates, not aggression toward them. He wore the creature's skin," a council member said with disgust. "He ate its flesh. These are not the actions of a civilized being. On his world, these are basic survival skills," Velthar countered. "We cannot judge an entire species by our own cultural standards. The question is, did he complete the examination? Did he survive? Did he demonstrate the qualities we seek in peacekeepers?" The council debated for hours. Hyunwoo and Jia waited outside the chamber with other human candidates. There were 20 of them total, all nervous about what the decision might mean. "If they kick us out, what will we do?" asked Minseo, another human candidate. "We go home and keep trying," Jia said. "Humans are persistent. It's kind of our thing." Finally, they were called back in. Council member Thress stood to deliver the decision. "After extensive deliberation, the council has reached a conclusion. The human candidates will not be removed from the academy. However, new protocols will be established to better integrate human methodologies with our existing training." Hyunwoo felt relief wash over him. Thress continued. "Furthermore, we recognize that human approaches to problem solving, while different from our own, have value. Candidate Hyunwoo, you are hereby appointed as a junior instructor for a new program, Adaptive Survival Training." Hyunwoo blinked in surprise. "I'm sorry, what?" "Your species has experience that others lack," Thress explained. "Experience in facing fear. Experience in tactical thinking. experience in turning disadvantages into advantages. We want you to share this knowledge, not to make other species into predators, but to help them overcome their limitations. Gia raised her hand. Council member, I would like to propose an additional program, Xenopsychology Integration, helping species understand each other's different approaches to challenges. Thress looked interested. Elaborate. Many species fear humans because they don't understand our thinking, Gia said. We seem reckless because they're used to caution. We seem aggressive because they're used to avoidance. But if we can teach them why we think the way we do and learn why they think their way, we can work together better. An excellent suggestion, Thress said. Approved. You will lead that program. The council session ended with a surprising announcement. Human enrollment in the academy would not only continue but would be expanded. Other species, seeing the value of human methods, wanted to train alongside humans, to learn from them, to understand them. 6 months later, Hyunwoo stood in a training hall with a mixed group of students. There were avians, insectoids, reptilians, and 3 humans. He was teaching them basic tracking skills. The key is to observe without assumption, he explained. Don't assume you know what the trail means. Look at the evidence. Footprint depth tells you weight. Footprint spacing tells you speed. Disturbed plants tell you direction. A young avian named Tay raised her wing. But my species has always avoided predators by flying away. Why do I need to track them? Because knowledge removes fear, Hyunwoo said. When you understand how a predator thinks, it stops being a monster and becomes a problem. And problems have solutions. You don't have to fight it. But understanding it gives you power. In another hall, Gia was teaching a different lesson. Her class was learning about stress responses and decision-making under pressure. Every species has fear responses, she explained. Humans have them too. The difference is what we learn to do with them. We learn to breathe through the fear, to think clearly even when our bodies are screaming at us to run. These aren't human skills. These are universal skills. Any species can learn them. Kella, the small furry student from Gia's examination group, spoke up. I froze during the exam. My instincts took over. How do you fight your own instincts? You don't fight them, Gia said gently. You acknowledge them. You say, yes, I'm afraid. Thank you, body, for warning me. Then you make a choice. Fear is information. It's not a command. The new programs were successful beyond expectations. Students who had been paralyzed by fear in previous examinations were now passing with good marks. They weren't becoming aggressive. They weren't becoming violent. They were simply becoming more confident, more capable, more complete. One day, Instructor Velthar found Hyunwoo reviewing training footage in his office. How are you adapting to teaching? Velthar asked. It's different from what I expected, Hyunwoo admitted. I thought I would be teaching combat skills. But mostly I'm teaching confidence, showing students that they're more capable than they believe. That's the most important lesson, Velthar said. When I watched you in that examination, I was frightened. Not of you, but of what your species represented. A fundamental change in how we think about survival. But I've learned something important. What's that, sir? Humans aren't dangerous because you're predators, Velthar said. You're valuable because you remember being prey. You know what fear feels like. That makes you better protectors. You fight hard because you remember what it's like to be vulnerable. Hyunwoo thought about that. My grandfather used to say that the best guardians are those who know what they're protecting people from, because they've faced it themselves. Your grandfather was wise. A year after the examination, the first joint peacekeeping mission launched with a mixed human-alien team. They were sent to a conflict zone where 2 species had been fighting for decades. Violence was common. Fear was universal. The team included humans and non-humans working together. When local populations saw them cooperate, saw different species working as one unit, something changed. If these different beings could work together, maybe peace was possible. The mission was successful not because of military might, but because the team showed what cooperation looked like. The humans taught courage. The aliens taught patience. Together they taught hope. Back at the academy, Hyunwoo received a message from the mission commander. Your training methods saved lives today, not through violence but through confidence. The team held the line because they believed they could. Thank you. Gia found him reading the message with a slight smile. Feeling proud? She asked. Feeling like maybe we're doing something important, Hyunwoo said. Remember when you asked if I was trying to prove a point during the examination? You said you weren't,